Hi everyone, so welcome to my channel, ReByu TV. So before anything else, since it's my first vlog, I think it's just right to introduce myself. So my name is Ryan. The concept of this vlog is actually, or this channel is really about pop culture. From discussions or sharing my thoughts on movies, music, Marvel Cinematic Universe, some of the books that I have read, and from time to time, probably we will, do some food, cooking, and travel. Again, it's just really more of sharing my thoughts, what I felt, what I think of certain topics. But mainly, it's really for entertainment. All right. So for my first vlog, I have decided really to do a review or provide my thoughts in regarding the two books that I have read last month. What If It's Us and Here's to Us. But before diving into that, probably just a personal story. I'm not a believer of doing New Year's resolutions because I feel that it's really challenging to keep your promises, to keep your commitments for 365 days, right? So what I have decided instead is to do resolutions month by month. I think it is more practical, you know, sensible, I would say. And again, in terms of commitment, I think it's easier. All right, going back to the two books that I have read last month, actually, it's a collaboration between two of the most famous young adult novelists in terms of the genre. I know that I no longer qualify in terms of being young adult, but to each his own, right? So it was a collaboration between Becky Albertalli and Adam Silvera. So Becky Albertalli is actually famous for her novel, and again, I've just read one of her novels, and plus these two. Um, if you know the Simon versus the Homo sapiens agenda, so it was really a quick, easy breezy book, and it was adapted actually to Love Simon, and of course, Love Simon was further spinned off to another series. I forgot Love Victor. Love Victor. So so that's her. For me, the other one is Adam Silvera. Again, another prominent author in terms of the young adult genre category. I know that I, I no longer fall under the young adult category, but to each his own, right? I mean, it is good. Um, so those are the authors, and it's for me, it's really good that those authors belong to the LGBTQ community. All right, because for me, it is important that stories like this involving queer characters should be written by queer characters. I mean, of course, it's a fiction, but it is also something that happens daily. It is a reality. So it's not just fiction as if sci-fi, but it's a reality fiction for me. And for me, the best person who can tell a queer story should, again, personally for me, must be a queer, or belonging to the LGBTQIA spectrum. So that is, again, a huge plus for me. And really, it became more relatable, I would say. Okay, so probably just to share again, when I was growing up, probably during my puberty years, there were no books like this. I mean, of course, during my time, there are no internet. There's no internet. Also, social media. So for me, it's really hard to access materials where you can relate. For someone who's going through a phase wherein I really felt different, I really felt, ashamed of the feeling. So it would be nice really to have something, a literature or a book or even in cinemas or movies to represent yourself to, you know, what you're going through at that time. Of course, there were Filipino literatures, and I applaud them, because it was courageous for those authors to publish, and of course for the publishers to really put that in in the bookstores, or, you know, other places. So for me, it's really courageous, but most of the topics surrounding those books are really homoerotic. Um, so it's always sensual, or if not sexual. So you don't really see a romantic story, right? But it is good that in this day and age we have this, and it's really accessible, whether through Wattpad, whether through Reddit, or again, you know, books. You know, it's easily accessible, of course, for those who can, you know, who are able and privileged enough to have these resources. So let's begin with what if it's us. So what if it's us? I think I took 5 days to 1 week to finish the novel What If It's Us. The book, actually, I bought this during 2019, mid of 2019. Um, it was a bit of a challenge during that time to start. And this is just really pure honesty. During the first pages, I had challenges to relate to the characters, although it is basically set up in New York, in Manhattan, but it's quite a challenge. Maybe because of the age, the characters as well. Although again, it's really great that the primary characters, Ben and Arthur, they are interracial, queer characters, which is good for representation. So the first few chapters, again, it is a slow build, and I don't understand why it's a slow build. It's because really for you to get, you know, acquainted with the characters, with those two characters, to understand the background. So Arthur is, apologies, but I can't remember the age. I think they were in their teens, of course, legal teens, turning 20 or 21, can't remember. But basically, he's an intern to a law office, so he flew to New York. And then, of course, Ben, who is the other character, actually is a homegrown New Yorker. So there are also supporting characters, which all of are lovable, and it's not a convoluted, you know, number of characters. So I think the entire story of What If It's Us is just really revolving to, you know, not more than 15 characters, including the parents of the protagonists. So yeah, so it was just really an easy romantic comedy as well, story of two queer boys, that, you know, that universe planned for them to meet. So after those few chapters where you will get acquainted, of course the rest of the story will be easy breezy. There are patterns already in the story, you know, like telling on the perspective of Arthur, telling the perspective of Ben, but it's really a continuous story, you know, of what do you call this? A straight line story, you know. There are times that you will have to do back and forth, which I'm not a fan of, but this one is really good in terms of being straight line story. So yeah, so in terms of the ending, I think it's okay. I don't like endings, you know, with cliffhangers. Although I think, you know, there was a good closure of the novel, of Arthur and Ben. So I was kind of feeling down because of the ending of What If It's Us, and then I tried to look into the internet in terms of the thoughts of other readers, and only to find out that there was a sequel, or which is Here's to Us. So I think Here's to Us was published last 2021. So the story of Here's to Us is just really a continuation of What If It's Us. Again, what I appreciated in What If It's Us is the same thing that I have appreciated with Here's to Us. Again, it's just really a straight storyline. No, it's not trying to be complicated. In terms of the flow, I think it is a bit tricky, because of course there are lines that I think in terms of relationships and such will be considered, of course, emotional cheating. So there are points to the story that you will find, again, tricky. But all in all, combine the two, I think it's one of those stories that I really love in terms of books. Again, in terms of cast of characters, it's the same. In Here's to Us, well, the natural tendency is for them to mature. So, the book gave that to us. There are a lot of cultural references as well. Not just only What If It's Us, I think more than What If It's Us, the Here's to Us had presented a lot of cultural references. Hamilton, Wicked, Broadway, Lady Gaga, Dear Evan Hansen. Of course, two of my favorite songs, Cut to the Feeling, um, Dancing on My Own by Robin. Yeah. I think my favorite parts in What If It's Us would be the close to ending. I find it very sweet because Arthur, as a guy, is very romantic. I guess he's into grand gestures. Ben is not that so. So it's a opposites attract according to Paula Abdul. But yeah, so that's the character, and the last few pages, I think it was really great for Ben to do something extraordinary for Arthur. Here, in Here's to Us, my most favorite would be the confession. I'm not going to give some clues, but there was a confession that happened. So I think it was really nice how it was done and how it was, uh, counteracted by the other fellow. Of course, there were parts here that I cried, because I felt that the other character didn't deserve that. But yeah, but again, those are my favorites. Also, there's a supporting character. Of course, the supporting character, Dylan and Samantha. I really love how they were portrayed as, as great pillars in terms of Ben and Arthur's story. But there was a minor character here in Here's to Us. It was just really a single, um, I would say, coming out of story, which was done very subtly. And I really appreciated that, actually. It was just really, I think, 4 pages dedicated to him or lesser. But it was, for me, it was striking though. So those are my thoughts in terms of, What If It's Us and Here's to Us. Here's to Us, I finished it in one sitting, so I guess it will give you an idea already, how I really felt about the novels. Of course, as a reader, I tried to look also, or read others' feedback or their others' thoughts in terms of, what they thought of these novels. Others didn't like it. Others felt it was pushed, unrealistic. But again, I think it really depends on your personality. In my case, I really don't want cliffhangers. I really don't want sad endings. Because I love romantic comedies and I'm a sucker for, again, happy endings, So it gave me what I wanted, and that's why, for me, it was really, really good. Of course, it will be a different case if I'm feeling, different, right? So yeah, so basically those are my thoughts on What If It's Us and Here's to Us. So again, it's a queer novel, but I don't think that even if you're straight, you will still find to appreciate it. After all, love is love, right? By the way, the rights to these books have been already purchased. I don't know the term, but it was already given. The rights have been given to a certain media. So hopefully in few years time it will be adapted into a movie or to a series, because the other novels of Adam, like this one, they both die at the end, which I finished also, and the first one to die at the end I finished also last month. So it was a it was a total opposite or totally different novel. But this one is They Both Die at the End is really critically acclaimed novel. So and this was adapted already. I think it's going to be a series in Netflix produced by Bud Bunny. So we'll see. I think it will be around 2024-ish or 2025. But yeah, so the next book that I'm going to do a feedback or review would be these two, because again they are sequel prequels. All right. So yeah. So again, until next time. So again, this is Ryan. This is my first vlog. So thanks for accompanying me, watching with watching this vlog. So yeah, what else? So again, if it's not too much, you can like or subscribe. So, but no pressure, guys. All right. So, susunod ulit.